marking the second studio release of the godfathers of heavy metal, released in September 18th from 1970 with more than 10 million units sold. Paranoid by Black Sabbath. And stick around until the end because I wanna discuss something that, in my opinion, is really mind-blowing about the early years of Black Sabbath. Setting the foundation for the development of what metal is today, unfortunately even said, but that's another story, let me show you what are the goodies, the key elements of this album from each member of the band Black Sabbath. Starting off with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in my opinion, vocal performance of heavy metal, Warpigs. General scattered in the masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil-minded plot destruction, sorcerers of death construction. In the field of bodies burning, as the world machines keep turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning the brainless mind. Hold on, John. The Prince of Darkness, the man that snacks with bats, that snored ant with Motley Crue. Ozzy Osbourne is just built different.
Good evening, Ozzy.
Hello there.
How are you?
Fine.
Don't hate me, but I think his voice sounds like shit. But, don't get me wrong. It's so unique that it makes it beautiful, outstanding in its own way, like most singers, if you really think about it. This vocal performance perfectly mirrors the meaning and the strength of the lyrics, written by Geese Butler against Vietnam War, against those rich fucker and politicians that create war just for their profit, sending us poor people to die. The song is from the 70s. The war is another war, the Vietnam War. I don't know why it sounds so modern. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, okay? Speaking of Geese Butler, I think he's such an underrated bass player. I know he's not the flashy, super talented, super virtuoso type of player like John Entwistle from the same era, Jaco Pastorius a little bit later, the guys from the Proc Panorama like Geddy Lee. But I think he's the definition of a bass player that served the song. And that means sometimes playing the same things over and over again, just doubling the guitar or playing few notes. Let me show you a couple of examples from this album, starting off with Planet Caramel. The song goes on for almost 5 minutes, play the same exact bass riff over and over again. And this show you a couple of examples. First of all, if you take out the bass part, the song is nothing. And this show you the bass is important, even in metal. We are good with that? Okay. Second of all, to make a song great, you need to completely destroy your ego. You need to serve the song, and that means playing the same thing over and over again. And please, bass player, learn these skills. Okay. Third, if you can find a bass player like that, respect him until the end of times. Okay. Let me show you another example of what I mean. Let the song shine, and in this case, even the other player. The outro section from Iron Man. again and again, letting the guitar player and the drummer shine, and consequentially, all the song. This last song contains one of the most iconic guitar riffs of all time, but to be honest, this whole album is a compilation of iconic guitar riffs, and if you're a guitar player like myself, you know it. And the man responsible for it is none other than Tommy Iommi, and it's not a Black Sabbath video without this riff. You know what it's called. And to all the furries out there, he is the goat of guitar and he missed the fingertips. So if you think there's something in your way to success as a guitar player or songwriter or whatever you are, it isn't. Here's another great, legendary, iconic guitar riff. Again, it's not a Black Sabbath video without this riff that really show you the genius and iconic playing of Tony Iommi. Example before discussing the early days of Black Sabbath career and how mind-blowing they were. Now let's talk about the groove machine behind everyone else, Bill Ward, a man that can play really flashy and complicated stuff for the time, but at the same time it can make you groove with just a kick drum, and we all know what is coming. Pattern, but what really makes my blood running in that particular place, okay, is that caveman feel right after the main riff. It's like playing with hammers. I fucking love it. And now a more flashy example, again from Iron Man. The more I listen and transcribe that song, the more I realize it is the embodiment of heavy metal and all the subgenre of metal, from doom to prog to thrash to everything. It is fucking unbelievable. If you wanna hear how fucking virtuoso this man Bill Ward can be, I highly suggest you to check the drum solo in Rat Salad. It is really fantastic. Now let's discuss about Black Sabbath. I want you to remember that the debut album Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath with the song Black Sabbath, it is funny as shit to me, I don't know why, but it's funny as shit, was released in February 13th of the same year. Paranoid was released September 18th of 1970. So let's imagine they start working on Paranoid right after Black Sabbath. They create what is considered the greatest heavy metal album of all time in 7 to 8 months. 7 to 8 months. Again, 7 to 8 months. Shit back then was on another level, but to top that, in July 1971, so less than a year after, they released Masters of Reality, with songs like Nib, Children of the Grave, etc., etc. Mind-blowing. In less than 2 years, they create what now we consider the greatest heavy metal of all time. Back then, they were the first 3 heavy metal album of all time, and they were super fucking successful. Like almost 2 million copies for Black Sabbath, more than 10 million for Paranoid, and I think, if I'm right, 2-3 million even for Masters of Reality. So in less than 2 years they sold like 15-16 million copies. Shit back then was on another level, and to top that, Paranoid was recorded in just 5 days, live on tape, live in the room, no click, no bullshit, no comping, no tuning, no nothing. Most of it improvised. If you really listen carefully to the original album, I mean, shit back then was on another fucking level. Sorry I get too excited, I'm a little bit autistic when it comes to music and great playing. Let's call it a day, this was my tribute to an album that directly or indirectly inspired us all, especially if you're a guitar player into rock and metal. And if you wanna hear me talking again about a band that was directly inspired by Black Sabbath, check this video where I go into every detail about the album Dirt by Alice in Chains. One of my favorite album, one of my favorite band, one of my favorite guitar player, vocalist, bassist, and drummer. I really, really fucking love this band, okay? And especially this album. My name is Gianluca, I'm a guitar player, singer, songwriter from Italy. Don't forget to sub to the channel if you want to support even more. There's a PayPal link for donation, and until next time, remember, you're lucky, my man.